Hey, welcome to my channel. Now I will say this. I mean, it still hasn't changed my opinion until they get past that second round of Brunson being that tier one superstar level player. Now he's definitely a tier one A. It looks definitely for sure tier one A. But until he gets that past that second round, specifically when against the Pacers. But then again, he was injured. But let's be honest, without OG, this is a guy that can play without can't do it on his own, which makes sense. But at the same time, it's also the aspect of like he should have been able to. But in any case, the fact is like this is a guy that's a team player, and I think he wants to win a championship because it's one of those things where looking back, he might have like realized like you know what, hey, if I'd stayed with the Mavericks, I could have been in the finals. But in reality, is maybe maybe not. Who knows? But this is one of those things where by Brunson taking the pay cut. Now remember, it's like he's surrendering $113 million, guaranteed an extra $113 million guaranteed for those 5 years. He's surrendering that by locking it in now. Now you might be asking, like, why would a player want to do that? Well, let's be honest. Some people are going to say, it's like, well, hold on. This is probably a case where like he's actually setting it up where he wants the team to contend for the future. Yes, that's true. But at the same time, I think it's more of a case where like you're looking based on what other players have done under Thibodeau, they do get injured. They do get injured. Noah Joaquin. Let's look at Noah. He basically cratered the moment after he left the Bulls and the Knicks signed him, and that was a stupid play by the Knicks to sign him for that kind of money. But reality is with him and Jalen Rose, I mean I can understand with him and Derrick Rose together, you figured like maybe you could rekindle that thing, but in reality it didn't. But in any case, Brunson's problem with this, he's definitely guaranteeing himself because chances are he saw what happened last year. He mean this season basically he literally almost injured himself in the playoffs. He injured himself a couple of times, and it was one of those things where they still needed him. Now, if he waited and like let's say he got injured in mid-season, real question comes down to is probably that everyone's gonna look is like okay, this we got another Derrick Rose situation basically, and like maybe he's not gonna recover. By doing this, he's definitely guaranteed. But the other aspect is like from the Knicks perspective, this definitely helps him out from the in the long term because one thing is it gives him a little bit of free cap room space to either extend Randall and Bridges or to focus on Bridges and then possibly get a free agent. Which let's be honest, I love Mitch Robinson, but if between Mitch Robinson and Rudy Gobert, I would go with Rudy Gobert. Why? Because he's Rudy Gobert. I'm like the defensive player of the year and all that stuff. I mean, how do you not keep him? So it's more of those cases, and like you got a star right there. He's definitely more of an all star than Mitch Robinson is. If the Knicks can trade Mitch Robinson and be able to sign Rudy Gobert, and still keep Mikal Bridges, depending on how well he does this year, it adds more to the fact that the Knicks are more now so are contenders like they were in the 90s, the early 90s with when they had the Ewing, Mason, Starks, Oakley era, um, Charles Smith, and of course Doc Rivers and such. But in any case, this is a situation where this makes the Knicks more of a contenders, and they feel like they're contenders. Like they're the top four team, one of the top four teams to have a chance to go to the finals. Now, granted, can they beat the Celtics? Highly unlikely. Depending on what Milwaukee does, let's forget Milwaukee has Giannis and Dame. Those two didn't mesh well in the first season, but it was like they needed a year. Like look at what happened with Kyrie Irving and not Jokic, Luka Doncic. They needed a full year to finally start gelling. Like and look where they came out to now. So and the same situation with Giannis and Dame, it might be a different story. So like, look for them to be the top three team, one of the top three for sure. And of course, with Paul George joining Embiid and Maxi, Philadelphia's definitely number two, number one seed at that point as well too, depending on how it works. So with the healthy Embiid, it changes the dynamic. So the Knicks are definitely a top four team, put it that way. But to the point where Healthy, they'll definitely beat the Pacers. Definitely beat the Pacers. The question comes down to is what happens with Randall and how he does well in the playoffs. That's going to be a different factor. We got to see how that works out. And that's the other aspect as well too. Is this, even though they will, depending on how Bridges plays and as well as how Randall plays, they're going to extend one of them basically. And chances are they're probably going to extend Bridges because they need their defense. Randall, as good of a number two scorer is, if you have a shot to get another superstar in play, that's probably in play that wants to come to New York. I wouldn't sign Randall. I would let him go and like sign someone else at that point. Like, let Randall become a free agent. But in any case, this gives the Knicks some cap room. I don't think you need to create a quote unquote statue, as Hart was saying about Brunson. But let's be honest. Let's be frank and honest. I mean, until he delivers, I'm still going to call him a tier 1A superstar, not a tier 1, tier 1A, because again, he was not unable to get past that second round. Let's be honest. Getting past the first round, they were supposed to do that. I mean, they barely got past an Embiid at playing at 50%. The fact that they couldn't get past the Pacers. Now, yeah, they're a high-fence offensive team with Halliburton and such, but the thing is quite honestly, the Knicks still had the players. Granted, they didn't have OG and Anunoby, but they still had Art. They still had DiVincenzo. They still had Brunson, of course. They should have beaten the Pacers, but they didn't, and that was my fear at that point. I feared that was what was going to happen. The fact that the Knicks lost Hartenstein as well too throws it to the point of like they don't have as much of a deep bench as we think they would. Because all right, let's think about this for a second. With a healthy Randall, with a healthy Mitch Robinson. That means you have Brunson, Randall, Mitch Robinson, OG, and Bridges, or OG and Hart, depending on how it works out. Which means that the Mikal or Hart, one of those two, are on the bench with DiVincenzo and with McBride. So you got 3 extra players there. But the reality is like you don't have anyone that's going to take up space for Mitch, except for maybe Ochuawa. But I know I'm pronouncing his name wrong, but whatever. It depends how that works out as well too. But quite honestly, it shows the selflessness on Brunson's part, but also shows the smarts on his aspect of like knowing full well that this could be a year where he could play out all out and he injures himself at that point, like the way Derrick Rose did for Tibbs. Tibbs, again, we know he likes to overplay players, even though it's an ongoing running joke. And now Tibbs is kind of scaling back a little bit, but the reality is, if he knows he's losing by like 3 or 4 points, he's going to keep those players that are hot for him out there. So it's going to be a case where let's see what happens in for the next season. I mean, if the Knicks can get some other players along the ways, that'd be great. For some trades in here and there. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from Randall. If not for Randall, the Knicks are not legitimate contenders. Let's be honest. If not for Randall, the Knicks are not legitimate. Everyone can say, "Oh well, Randall and what's his name, R.J. Barrett added that depth." But R.J. Barrett, I don't know about that because like I'll believe it when I see it with R.J. Barrett what he does with the Raptors. But in reality is, I thought Quickly was the one that would help out. I thought the Raptors were looking for Quickly, but we'll see what happens with that. Again, quite honestly, for me, from my perspective, I've always believed the Knicks, they should have gotten Brunson and Donovan Mitchell. If they got those two, OG and Anunoby, they could have gotten different, separately. Maybe through free agency. Quite honestly, I think with those 3 together, I think the Knicks would have done much more and gone farther into the playoffs than we're seeing right now. But in any case, let me know your thoughts. I do read my comments when they warrant a response, and I respond to them when they warrant a response. Again, let me know your thoughts about the fact that Brunson signing so early or re-signing so early or extending his contract so early, but basically sacrificing that extra $113 million, guaranteed extra $113 million for 5 years extra, versus the 4 years that he signed. Let me know what your thoughts are basically on that, because the question comes down to is like that's 4 more years with Brunson. Question is like, do the Knicks feel that Brunson's not going to do much, or does Brunson feel that the Knicks are going to do him right? But let's be honest, I don't think the Knicks are going to do him right. After those 4 years are up, the Knicks are not going to do him right because, quite honestly, look what the Knicks did with Ewing. Look what they did with Ewing. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. But with that, I'll leave it at that. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. As I said, respond to them when they warrant a response. But with that, if you like my channel, like my videos, like my content, please subscribe if you haven't subscribed. But with that, I'll leave it at that. Unfiltered, unedited, of course, always unrehearsed. Until next time.